Good evening, YouTube, and welcome back to the channel. This is IMAX Sports with another football video, and today I'm going over each NFL team's chances of making the playoffs. In this video, I'm going to go over all 32 teams and give you my opinion of their realistic chances of making the playoffs. This is not a ranking of which team I think is the best and which team I think is the worst. If you want that, that is my NFL Power Rankings video. I post those every week on the channel. You can go check that out. But this is based off of schedules, what their current record is, what I think that their final record can be, and their ceiling and floor for the season. So there's a lot of different factors that go into it. Also, what division they're in and their odds of winning their division. So there's a lot of different things that went into these decisions. It's not just solely based off of which team is better than which team. So if you see your team and a team that you think is worse has a slightly better chance of making the playoffs, it's not just because I think they're better than them. I think there's a variety of different reasons. So that's just an explanation of what the video is. Before we get into it, though, make sure the Detroit Lions. I have the Lions at less than 1% chance of making the playoffs. Currently, the lowest record they can finish with is 0-17. The best record they can finish with is 9-8. I think it'll be somewhere between 0-17 and 5-12. But I think that they'll probably end up with one win. 5-12 is a very generous ceiling for the Lions, to say the least. I think it's more likely they'll win one game, but it's an absolute ceiling. I don't like predicting teams to go 0-17, so I predicted them to go 1-16, but I think it's very possible for them to lose the rest of the season. Also at less than 0.1%, we have the Houston Texans. I have the Houston Texans staying at 1-16. I have them losing the rest of the season. Same ceiling as the Lions at 5-12, but I really don't think that they'll be anywhere near that. The Texans have played horrendous football this season, and they've lost to a lot of the worst teams in the league. At 0.4%, we have the Miami Dolphins. I have the Dolphins finishing 3-14. They've had a couple of wins this season, one week 1 and one last week against the Texans. I don't see them winning any more games unless they're playing other bad teams, but I think that they can play some good teams somewhat tough. So I have them going 3-14. I think they'll get at least one more win in there. Again, I think they can probably get up to 5-12. I just don't see it very likely. Slightly higher at 0.6%, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars. I have them winning one more game than the Dolphins, and a slightly higher ceiling. Trevor Lawrence has looked pretty decent in some recent games, and the Jacksonville Jaguars defense held the Bills to only 6 points last week. So I don't think that that's a turnaround point for the Jaguars, but I can see them winning some more games to finish off the season. At 3%, we have the New York Jets. My record prediction for them is 5-12. Their floor is 3-14. Their ceiling is slightly higher again at 7-10. The Jets have looked really good against some teams. They play really good teams really well. Their last 5 wins have all been against teams that are like 5-3 or better, or 10-6 or better. So they've beaten some good teams in the last couple of years, but they can only be good teams. So I think they'll get a couple of more weird wins in there. I don't think that they're going to be doing much, though. Also at 3%, we have the Washington football team. I have Washington's record prediction at 3-14. They've been going downhill since the beginning of the season, and I suspect they'll continue to go downhill. I think they might be able to win one more game, but their defense that was relegated preseason has looked horrendously bad, and their offense has not looked great. I don't think that they're going to be improving for the rest of the season, and I think it'll be tough for them to scrape together wins towards the end. The Bears I have going 4-13, slightly higher. I have them at their floor. I mean, I think that their floor is probably 3-14 as well, honestly. I think that they could honestly lose out the rest of the season. I don't think it's very likely. I think that they'll scrape together at least one win, probably in their division, because their division is really weird. But their division, no matter how good or bad you are, you can win inside of that division. Like, the Vikings and the Packers split almost every year, and the Packers are almost always better. So, I have the Bears at 3%. The NFC wildcard spot is going to be pretty open. The 7th seed is going to be pretty open, but even at 3 and 5 or 3 and 6, I don't see the Bears getting in there. Big jump at 10%. We have the Carolina Panthers. I have the Panthers going 6 and 11, a floor of 5 and 12, and a ceiling of 8 and 9. The Panthers started off the season very strong. They won 3 games in a row. They quickly moved to 4 and 3, and now they are 4 and 5. So the Panthers have had a very down season. It went up and then it went down. That's what they've been doing the last few years. They start off strong and then they kind of fizzle out. And I expect that trend will continue. I have them going 6 and 11, winning 2 more games and losing 6. They have a very tough schedule to finish off the season as well, so that doesn't help a lot. And although they might potentially be able to make it to the playoff spot, I think their ceiling is somewhere around 8 and 9, and I see it very unlikely. Also, 10%, we have the San Francisco 49ers. I have the 49ers going 6 and 11 as well, with the same floor and the same ceiling. They have a very similar record. They are 3 and 5, not 4 and 5. I think they have a slightly easier schedule, but I think they're a slightly better team. Or I don't even know if they're a slightly better team. I just think their schedule is a little easier, and so they might have a slightly better chance of making the playoffs. At 12%, we have the Giants, and I have the Giants going 7 and 10. A lot of people might think that this is crazy, but they have a really easy schedule. Like, they're in the NFC least. They play Washington twice. Their schedule is pretty easy for the rest of the season. And they've been playing really well against good teams. So I think that they might be able to get 1 or 2 more upsets against good teams and maybe a couple wins of their division. And I think that they could finish with 7 or 8 wins. I have them as a ceiling of 9 and 8. And I think that this is the first team that really has somewhat of a chance to get that 7 seed. At 14%, we have the Philadelphia Eagles, also at 7 and 10. Floor slightly higher, ceiling the same. The Eagles are in a very similar situation. They're also 3 and 6. They also have an easy schedule left ahead, and I think 7 and 10 is a very possible final record for them. The Atlanta Falcons are also 7 and 10 as my final record prediction. Their floor is also 6 and 11. Their ceiling is also 9 and 8. Their schedule is not as easy as the other two, but they're starting off with a better record. They're starting off at 4 and 4. So I think that the Falcons have a slightly better chance just because they already have a higher record. Although my floor, ceiling, and prediction is the exact same as the Eagles, I think that they have a slightly better chance just because their record is already an extra game ahead. At 25%, another big jump, 10% jump, we have the Minnesota Vikings. And yes, all of these are NFC teams. We've had like 8 NFC teams in a row. That's because the NFC playoff spot, there are 6 playoff spots that are almost already decided, and then there's 1 spot that all of these teams are clawing and scratching to get to. And so all of these percentages are going to be really low because the rest of the conference is like super high. Like, it's like none of the other teams are not going to miss the playoffs at this point in the season. So that's why these are all really low. And then the AFC ones are considerably more closer to 50% because it's a lot of teams that are right like in the fight. So at 25%, we have the Vikings. I have them 1 bit higher on the record prediction. Same floor, slightly higher ceiling. Generally for this video, what I did was if their record prediction is higher, then I gave them an extra 6%. And if their floor or ceiling was higher, then I gave them an extra 3%, just to give a little bit more like mathematical structure to it. So that's why they're about 10% higher than Washington. So I think that the Vikings have one of the better chances to get that 7th seed in the NFC. They've looked really solid against some really good teams, and they don't have the worst record right now. They're 3 and 5. The Falcons are 4 and 4. The Panthers are 4 and 5. So I think that they're really in there, and they're one of the better teams fighting for that spot. At 30%, we have the first AFC team, the Indianapolis Colts. I have the Colts at 8-9, floor of 7-10, and a ceiling of 10-7. I really don't think that there's a lot of room, like wiggle room in their schedule left. They have easy teams and they have hard teams. And so far this season, they've lost to all the hard teams and they've beaten all the easy teams. I think that's probably going to continue as a trend, and I think that it's very unlikely they win less than 7 or more than 10 games. That being said, there is a possibility they hit a playoff spot, but I think it's very unlikely. At 35%, we have the last NFC team for quite a long time. We have the Seattle Seahawks at 35. The Seahawks, I have their final record prediction being 9-8, a floor of 7-10, and a ceiling of 10-7. True floor is 3-14, and true ceiling is 12-5 because they are 3-5 right now. But Russell Wilson's coming back this week. I think that Russell Wilson's going to want to prove himself. They also don't have a very hard schedule. They have the Packers, and then they have a couple of divisional matchups. But I think that they have 4 easy wins already in their schedule, and then if Russell Wilson can win a couple of good, strong games, which I think he probably can, then I can see them at 8-9 or 9-8 pretty easily. And I think that 9-8 will probably be the number to beat for the NFC playoff spot. Especially because the Seahawks, they lost to the Vikings early in the season, so the Vikings have a tiebreaker over them. But I think Seattle has one of the stronger chances of making the playoffs. At 39%, we start the string of AFC teams with the Cleveland Browns. I know a lot of Browns fans are going to get mad at me for having the Browns as the lowest of all of the 4 and 5 win teams in the AFC, but they have a really hard schedule. They're in the hardest division in football, the AFC North. And so being in the hardest division in football, you're going to have a really tough schedule. I also think that the Browns are very inconsistent, and that being said, with their hard schedule, it's going to be tough for them to make the playoffs. I have them going 9-8 with a floor of 6-11 and a ceiling of 11-6. The Broncos are in the same situation. I think that the Broncos are a very strong team, but they have a really, really, really tough schedule. I have them with the same record prediction as the Browns, a slightly higher ceiling and same ceiling, slightly higher floor. The slightly higher floor is just because they have a couple more games that are locks. A couple more games I think that are almost like guaranteed wins for them. So that's why the Broncos are slightly higher than the Browns. At 48%, we have the Bengals, and this is where we jump from 9-8 to 10-7. We have the Bengals as the first 10-7 team, and I think 4 10-7 teams on here. So I'll cut one of these teams that have to win a tiebreaker or something. I have their floor and ceiling the same as the Broncos, but I have their record prediction slightly higher just because I think that the Bengals have been more clutch. They've won more games against stronger teams. The Broncos played a really good game last week against the Cowboys. I will give them credit for that. But the Bengals have been more consistently good against good teams. The other wins from the Broncos came from the league's garbage heap, for lack of a better term. And this week against the Cowboys was a strong win, but I don't see it being a pattern for the rest of the year. At 51%, we have the Kansas City Chiefs. That logo is really small. I apologize. I don't know why the Chiefs logo looks so much smaller than all the other ones. The Chiefs at 10-7, floor of 8-9, and a ceiling of 11-6, so the floor is slightly higher than the Bengals, and that's because I think that it's Patrick Mahomes. I know that Patrick Mahomes has looked very inconsistent this year, especially last week, putting up 13 points against the Packers practice squad defense, but I still can't see him going below 8-9. I can see him going 8-9. His season's looking very much like a Drew Brees 7-9 season with a really weak defense, a lot of interceptions, and a lot of passing stats. But I think that 10-7 is probably the most likely record for the Chiefs. They have a tough schedule ahead, a lot of divisional matchups, and it's a tough road to the playoffs for most of the teams in the AFC. Steelers are slightly higher at 55%. Their ceiling is a little higher than the Chiefs. Their floor is the same. Their record prediction is the same. I really can't see the Steelers going below 9-8, to be honest. I have 8-9 as their floor, but I can't see them going below 9-8. Ben Roethlisberger hasn't had a losing season in his career. The Steelers haven't had a losing season in 17 years. I don't think that they're going to start this year. They're 5-3. A lot of people thought they're going to be bad. I don't think that they're going to start this year. So I have the Steelers at 55%, currently just right outside of the playoff threshold. I currently have them at the 8th. I think that they're the 8th lowest AFC team on here. So at the 8th lowest AFC team, they're not. They have the exact same record, floor, and ceiling as the Raiders. The reason why the Raiders are higher is because the Raiders have won more games in the AFC. That's the reason why, is because I put the Raiders 1% above the Steelers because they've won one more game in the AFC, and that currently gives them a tiebreaker. So, with that one more game, I have the Raiders above the Steelers. I also think the Raiders have looked more consistent. They beat the Ravens, which is a really impressive. They've had more impressive wins. The Steelers did beat the Bills, though, so they both had one really good win, a couple of really solid wins, and a couple of really weird losses. So they're very similar teams. That's why I have the same floor, same ceiling. They both have hard schedules left. I think one of those two teams will probably make the playoffs. Not sure which one, but I think one of them will. The one concern I have for the Raiders is that, much like the Panthers, they usually start off strong and then they fall off somewhere in the middle of the year, unexpectedly. Next up, we have the Chargers at 61%. The Chargers record prediction. This is the end of the 10-7 teams. We're now on to the 11-6 teams. I have the Chargers going 11-6 with a floor of 8-9 and a ceiling of 12-5. The Chargers have one of the easier schedules in the AFC West. I looked at every team's schedule. The Chargers have the easiest schedule in the AFC West. They also are currently, in my opinion, the strongest team in the AFC West. The Raiders might be slightly stronger, but their schedule is definitely harder. So I think the Chargers have a safer path to making the playoffs than the Raiders do, and that's why they're slightly higher. And slightly higher than the Chargers, I have the Patriots. The Patriots have tiebreakers over the Chargers, so that's why they're higher. Even though the record, the floor, and the ceiling are all the same, I have the Patriots 1% higher because of that tiebreaker. The AFC East schedules left are easier than the rest of the league because the Patriots get to play. Like we have easier games left. The rest of the AFC is fighting with each other. All of the 5-win teams are like at it with each other, and then the Patriots and Bills play each other in like Tennessee, and then they have a bunch of easy games left. So the Patriots are slightly higher than everyone else because their schedule is just easier. I don't think the Patriots are better than any of these other 5-win teams. We just have an easier schedule. And I think that if we can beat Cleveland this week, that 62% is going to go significantly up. We also have a lot of AFC tiebreakers right now. I think we're 4-1 in the AFC, and I think that's probably going to go up if we beat Cleveland, if we beat the Colts, if we beat the Dolphins. I think that we can probably be 7-4 in the AFC by the end of the season. I have the Bills at 71%, record prediction 11-6, same as the Patriots. Slightly higher ceiling, slightly higher floor. I think that the Bills are a decently stronger team than the Patriots. Their schedule is slightly harder. I think that the Bills and the Patriots will probably split. I think they'll probably each win one game. I can't guarantee that, though. I think that the Bills have a more than likely chance of winning both games, but I like to be slightly optimistic. So I have the Bills at 71%. Just because I think they could be higher, but with the loss last week to the Jaguars and looking really bad against Miami a couple weeks ago, the Bills are bleeding. They're showing blood. The Bills that won the AFC Championship game last year don't look like the Bills that won the AFC Championship game last year. Much like the Chiefs that went to the AFC Championship game. Sorry, my apologies. Much like the Chiefs that won it, they don't look like the Chiefs anymore. And the highest team in the not the highest team, second highest team in the AFC, we have the Baltimore Ravens at 80%. The Ravens are currently 6-2. They're looking really strong. They're winning their division. I think that they're going to win their division. They're in a tough division, so their record prediction is only 12-5. But I think that they're going to definitely be a playoff team. I think that there's no question that the Ravens will be in the playoffs. No matter if they win their division, if they're the 7th seed, they'll be in there somewhere. And they've definitely proven that to me at this point in the season. At 85%, we have our first NFC team in like 12 teams. We have the Saints. I have the Saints going 11-6, with a floor of 9-8 and a ceiling of 13-4. Just for reference, the floor of 9-8 is the same as my record prediction for the Seahawks. I don't see the Saints losing to 2 teams. I think the 85% is honestly a little low, but I think it's very unlikely the Saints miss the playoffs at this point. They're 5-3. They have a fairly easy schedule left, and they're really unpredictable. Like the fact that their wins are so unpredictable makes it almost more likely they make the playoffs, because you can be more consistent if you're unpredictable. I mean, like, if you always lose to all the good teams and beat all the bad teams, then you kind of know where you're going to end up. But if you're inconsistent like that, you could really be anywhere from winning every game for the rest of the year to, like, maybe going 500, but Saints should be able to make the playoffs. And then the rest of it's pretty straightforward. We have the Rams at 95%. They're currently second in their division. That's the only reason. That's where the 5% comes from. I'd see no universe where the Rams don't make the playoffs at this point. Once again, the NFC is very closed off. We have Tampa at 97%. The reason why they're missing 3% is because they're only a game ahead of the Saints, and the Saints have a tiebreaker. It's like I didn't want to put all these teams at 99%, but they're really all at 99%. We have the Packers at 98, record prediction of 13-4. Oh, Tampa's 14-3 record prediction. That's because their schedule is insanely easy. I have the Packers at 13-4 record prediction. Slightly harder schedule. I think they'll probably lose a couple of games in there. But there's no chance they don't make the playoffs, especially in the division that they're in. Arizona, much like the Rams, again, I know it's a very tough division to be in, but I mean, the 49ers aren't looking like a threat. They've already played them twice anyways, and I really can't see, like, the lowest the Cardinals can go is 8-9, and I think that the highest, like, the Vikings can be is 8-9. Like, if the Cardinals lose every game for the rest of the season, there's still a chance they could make the playoffs. Like, honestly, they could lose every game the rest of the year. They could just not show up and still be the 7th seed in the NFC right now. At 99%, we have 2 teams, the Tennessee Titans at 13-4, and the Dallas Cowboys at 13-4. Both of these teams I have going 13-4 with a floor of 11-6. And the reason why these 2 teams are at 99+ is because of the divisions that they're in. The Titans' next closest opponent is the Colts. I cannot see the Colts winning that division, simply because the Colts' schedule is very hard and the Titans' schedule is very easy. Same thing with the Cowboys. I cannot see the Cowboys losing that division because it's the NFC least. Like, there's no way the Cowboys lose the NFC least. The worst they can do is 6-11, and I'm not convinced any team in that division can even go 6-11. So those are my NFL chances of making the playoffs. I hope you guys enjoyed. I know this was a very long video, longer than I usually do, so I apologize for that. But I just wanted to go kind of like in depth for each team, kind of feel it out a little bit, see what you guys thought. Let me know in the comments below who you think will be in the playoffs. Do you think that the Lions and the Texans have a chance at making the playoffs? I don't. But comment down below what you guys think. Make sure to subscribe if you're new. And if you made it all the way to the video, to the end of the video, comment I made it to the end of the video, because this is like a 25-minute video now. So yeah, thank you guys for all the support. Thank you once again for 1,000 subscribers. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.